Hi, everybody. We are live. I know we're a little bit late, but life and technical difficulties, so we're just going to go with it. But oh my, so I want to just show you something because I'm really excited about it. Okay. How cute is this, right? So I have to wear it today because that's our logo. And at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see the link to where you could go get your own because we of course collaborated with another veteran-owned small business called Really Designs. So you can go there and get your own. And if you haven't been following us on Facebook, you can get a kids line. We have kids t-shirts. So stay tuned for that. I'm so excited. Follow us on Instagram to see the reveal of our kids line with our new little brand ambassador. So thank you for that. And I have to, of course, I have to show you this. And it didn't work. Hold on. And there you go. So I love when I have other podcasters on here because I get to learn from them and they're so amazing. And today we have another podcaster he is Keith McKeever from the Battle Buddy podcast. So you need to go over and follow him on Facebook. But before then, hi Keith. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me on.
I'm so
It's
excited.
quite a pleasure to be on your show.
Oh my gosh, the honor is all mine to have you on my show. So you have quite a story. I was reading your bio like a million times, and everybody's story is different, and I like to put that out there. That's why I love to have people on. So their background, how they got there, and then what made them be who they are today, and how they became that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and the Air Force?
Okay. Well, my Air Force journey is one of those things I never thought I was gonna really join the military. As a kid, you kind of think about it, but it was never really serious. Um, and then I got my associate's degree in law enforcement, and I was kind of bored, honestly. It was a couple months before turning 21. I knew I wanted to be a cop, but I also knew that having a grown-up job was going to be a life-changing thing. When you're 20 years old and all you've done is school, like the whole idea was scary. And so I was just trying to figure out life. I think like most 20-year-olds are trying to figure out life. And the phone rang one day. It was actually an Army recruiter, had a long conversation, and it kind of got the ball rolling a little bit. And I talked to my stepdad, who's a Vietnam vet, when he came home, and I said, hey, I don't know how mom's going to feel about this, but I'll ask you since you're a vet, And he goes, look, if you're going to do anything, look at the Navy or the Air Force. And he was like, unless you want to go sleeping on the ground, which of course I know not all soldiers, not even all Marines sleep on the ground, to be honest,
Right.
honestly. But I was like, okay, all right. I respected the guy. He'd been in my life for a couple of years at that point. And I said, okay, sure. I'll go give the Air Force a shot first. And long story short, like a couple of weeks later, I'm like filling out paperwork, going to MEPS. Like this is a real, hey, this is what's going to happen. But I didn't have a job. I wanted to be an aerial gunner, firefighter, or security forces. And a recruiter called me right around my birthday, which is in late March, and said, hey, I had a guy who broke his leg. He can't go. He's guaranteed security forces job. Do you want it? Well, it was one of my three choices. So I said, how long do I have to think? He goes, I kind of need an answer today. so, so I was like, okay, all right, well, give me a couple hours at least, let me figure this out. And I just decided, you know what? If I'm going to do this, if I'm going to join, I might as well join now. Because if I sit and wait for 6 months, I may talk myself out of it. Who knows? And so that's how I ended up in the Air Force. Went in April of 2006, went security forces, got stationed in Japan, Scott Air Force Base, did 2 deployments to Iraq, spent a little time in Ecuador. There's a whole lot that I could go over that happened in that time. So that's how I ended up getting in and the reasons why.
So you spent how many years did you serve?
I was in for 5 years and 7 months and like 20 days, if I remember right. I think I saw that on my DD-214 somewhere.
So what prompted you to just to get out at 5 years?
There's a lot of things there. You know,
Mhm.
the two deployments. Yeah, just things that happen to your body start kind of adding up, and other things like that. So, you know, it's one of those things. I mean, I could have maybe gone a little bit longer. When I first got in, I was thinking 20 years like everybody else. Like, yeah, I'll just do 20 years. Yeah.
Right.
No, no, I think after 4 years, I was like, maybe another enlistment. I re-enlisted, and then some things happened, and I ended up getting out at 5 years, 7 months, and 20 days, roughly, whatever it was. So all
Well,
things seem to work out for a reason.
and you're right, and I want people to know that it doesn't matter how long you serve, you served, and everybody goes through different things. It doesn't matter how long you're in for. It's a hardship on you physically and mentally, and so we all have our reasons for when we're like, you know what, it's time, and we did what we could do.
So I
So
got mad respect for those people who do 20 or 30 years because it's just unbelievable to me.
when I was a little butter bar second lieutenant in Germany, I met my first interaction with a brigade sergeant major who was retiring after 30 years. And I sat in that auditorium and my mouth was just dropped open. I was like, 30 years. He was in since he was 17 and I had so much respect for him. I didn't even know what to think. I mean, I was brand new and I was like, holy shit, that's such a long time.
I mean, you can't quite fathom it when you're probably 23, 24. So at the time,
Exactly.
something like that, like, oh gosh, they've had uniform on longer than I've literally been alive. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy when you think about those
I was
things.
like, there's no way I was mature enough at 17 to even do something as responsible as that. I was still trying to figure out my life. So before you enlisted, you said your dad was a veteran?
My stepdad was.
Your stepdad, okay.
Yeah.
And he served in what branch?
He was Air Force during Vietnam. So he went in as a load master, cross trained, did some PJ stuff in Vietnam, and then got out. He was in the Guard for a little while. The exact timeline on that, I'm not sure, but another 4 or 5 years, something like that, I think.
Wow. I always think it's so fascinating that the only thing I knew when I joined the army was the army. I didn't know anything else. And so when I met people from Vietnam, um, I was just like, wow. Because you don't pay attention in history until you talk to somebody who's been a part of history, and you're like, okay, this is a whole different ballgame. So I think it's so amazing. Can we talk about when you lost your dad?
Sure. I'm a
Okay.
pretty open book.
Okay. So you lost your dad to cancer when you were 16.
Yes.
I don't even want to ask you how was that. I want to ask you, how did you heal from that at 16 going
Yeah.
until
You
your
know,
daughter?
that the whole thing was kind of a blur because that was he passed away in November of 2001 when I was 16. And my sister and I didn't find out he had cancer. We found out on Easter morning
Mm.
of that year. And we knew he had bad back problems that were creeping up for a couple of years, but really didn't think much of it. And then he sat us down Easter morning. And my sister and I we're going to church that day to help with our youth group. So I said, look, before you guys go, we got to sit down and tell you, I've had this back pain, whatever. We went to the doctor. The doctors have confirmed it's cancer. So there's a lot of emotions that come out. You don't know what the future is going to hold. They said, we're going to do what we can to fight it. And I said, I'm going to do chemo and radiation this summer. I just turned 16. So literally just a few weeks before that. So we go to church, emotional wrecks. I mean, it was probably the best place to go. Right after hearing that, had a lot of family there that didn't know. And we, kind of broke the news to them, but we had support around us. Probably really helped that day. That summer, I ended up driving him to and from his chemo and radiation appointments. That was kind of I don't want to say first job, but that's what I did that whole summer. And, unfortunately in September of 2001, obviously, a rough time for most people in the United States. But, he was still in the hospital, getting worse, brought him home on bed rest. And, he passed away in early November. So that was tough. what probably got me through that was my close group of friends. I had a group of friends, some that I hadn't really been super close to for a few years, others I'd been close with for a long time. And they rallied around me and really made those last couple of years of high school bearable. I always had somebody to hang out with. My mom had a pool table and an air hockey table in the basement and video games. And it was one of those things where she welcomed all my friends over. I knew all of their parents. Their parents were like secondary parents to me. So it was a really close-knit group. Everybody knows each other in small town USA, And so every weekend we'd be at somebody's house or hanging out with everybody. So she knew where we were at, what we were doing. Totally different world than these days, I guess, with kids, didn't have cell phones to be able to track me that way, but she knew where I was at. And, they were really instrumental in getting me through that. I think it was just kind of a distraction, and then after time, you just kind of process it. And it is what it is. It sucks. Cancer sucks. It's a painful thing, but it also gives you a lot of insight into life and how fragile it can be. Right. For somebody who's seemingly healthy and just going throughout their life, in less than a year, to see them just whittle away to hardly anything, not being able to control anything and just, a vegetable in a bed, quite honestly, for the last few weeks. So, it was a difficult thing to endure, but it gives you some perspective for sure.
And where did you grow up?
Central Illinois, around the Peoria, Illinois area. It's about halfway, and that's where I'm at now. It's about halfway between Chicago and St. Louis.
Okay. I love that you had that tight-knit group. I miss that growing up. I grew up in a small town. It was a small town back then, Simi Valley, California. But like you said, you were able to go wherever. You didn't have the phones. You didn't have all these things that make everything so crazy right now. It was just simple times back then. And I wish we had that again, but it's just.
Yeah, nobody has cell phones with cameras on them. Nobody text messaged. It was back in the day. I mean, pretty much date myself with what I've already said, but 16 in 2001. But I mean, our phones. That's back when you had to ask people if you could, if they had the ability to text. If their parents weren't going to get upset by the extra charges on their bill.
Oh my gosh, yes. As long as I was home before the lights came on.
As I said, it's a different world these days. If you're raising kids, it's a totally different world. So
it's not easy. There's no book. So now let's get into the real estate industry. How'd you do that?
Well, that is also, there's family ties on that one too. So my father got his license. He worked at a coal mine. Another lesson I learned from him growing up is always to do a job that you love. If you don't have a passion for it, why the heck do it?
Yeah.
And he was a walking example of that. He hated working at a coal mine, but it had good pay and good benefits, or decent benefits. At least I don't guess I can't really speak for that, but it was enough for him to stay at the job. And in 1988, when I was about 3, he got his real estate license. And of course, real estate was a lot different back then than it is now, but he needed a little help. So he asked my mom. She was a stay-home mom at the time. She got her real estate license that year and started helping him out and just took off from there. And then when the coal mine shut down in the mid-90s, he jumped into real estate full-time with her until he passed away. They built a log home. So I grew up in a log home out in the country. They sold log home packages. They sold real estate. They had rentals. They had flips. So very literally, when I say we had conversations at the dinner table where my parents are talking about clients and inspections and all these different things, like that was just normal verbiage at our house growing up. It just was what, they would close the door. They'd be in their office. They'd be in there plugging away at their computer, doing stuff, running errands. They had to actually physically go get copies from people instead of electronic signatures back then. But, there was times at 9:30 at night, all right, kids, pack up in the car. We got to drive, 45 minutes and go get one signature.
Oh, wow.
So they were always on the road, always on the go. It was a very interesting childhood. So, so it was very literally around, and, mom would always say, well, one of these days, maybe you'll get in real estate with me. And I always brush it off as no way. And then a year after I got out of the Air Force, my youngest was born. He was born premature. And the company I was at wanted me to promote into an assistant manager job, go somewhere else. I knew it was going to be at least 6 to 8 hour drive away from home. And I was like, you know what? I can't do that. I got to stay where my support structure's at, because we don't know what kind of issues are, right around the corner for us. Mm-hmm. And mom's like, hey, here's an opportunity knocking on the door again. You want to get into real estate with me? And so that's what I did. and it's been that way ever since.
And you've been doing that since 2013.
Yep, 9 years. Just under 9 years with her. Her and I as business partners, and I just literally this week made a move. I'm on my own now as an agent, but we still have a close relationship and figure out ways to help each other out. And I couldn't have asked for a better mentor. That's for darn sure.
Oh man, congratulations. That's a big step. I can't imagine. I do have my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law are real estate agents and they're always on the go. Always on the go. So I that's a whole other world. And but you love it, obviously.
Well, I think the thing I love about it is not no 2 days are the same.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, I might have 2 days in a row sitting in my office, but I'm going to be doing completely different tasks, different phone
Mhm.
calls, different issues that pop up, and it's it just changes it up. That way, it's not some mind-numbing thing where you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again every single day, 5 days a week, whatever. So keeps you on your toes.
So tell us about how you started or why you wanted to start the Battle Buddy podcast.
Well, I noticed, like I'm sure you've probably noticed, any veteran who's on Facebook has probably noticed this, that if you're in enough groups, you see veterans struggle with all kinds of issues, and they're publicly putting their stuff out there of, hey, I've got a problem with XYZ, or I'm having a problem with my spouse. I got a problem with my kids. I've got a problem with my PTSD, around the 4th of July, or all these
Mhm.
different issues that pop up. And I started noticing it. There was a trend, and they kind of started falling in certain categories.
Mhm.
Some of them was employment, some of them was personal finance, some of it was just personal relationships, some of it was just being completely disconnected from the veteran community. But it all kind
Mhm.
of fell in just a handful of categories. And at the time, being an agent and driving around all the time, I was listening to podcasts left and right. I was listening to a lot of stuff from Gary Vaynerchuk and some other people. Hadn't really kind of discovered some of the military stuff yet, not too deeply. But I was, if I got a 30-minute drive, I was going to listen to a 20, 30-minute podcast or an hour long one. I'll listen half while there, half coming back.
Yeah.
And so right before the pandemic, I was like, I could create my own, and I could just interview people and talk about their problem, what they've overcome, and inspire and educate others. And if by sharing their story, hopefully it helps somebody just take one little actionable step that can, have a compound effect throughout time.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of where it started. And it's just blossomed from there. And it's been awesome to have, as to talk to other people and hear their stories and share it. And you just never know how and where that's going to be impactful. So it's been
Mhm.
quite a journey for sure.
No, it's really great. I think that it's so important for us, especially to create that platform for people to be heard. They just need to come on somewhere, anywhere, and someone just needs to listen. And then whoever's listening to that, you never know what that's done for them. And I think that's one of the most amazing things, the most heartfelt things is to get a message saying, I listened to your episode and oh my gosh. Then you're like, yep, this is why I do it. So how long have you been doing that for?
The original idea hit me right before the pandemic in
Mm,
2020. Somewhere in
mm,
January, I kind of started framing it out. Didn't know, just like anything that you start in life, where do you start, right? It's like a kid picking up
exactly.
their room. So I was like, man, I don't know where to start, and I just started with a list. I was like, okay, who would I want to interview, right? Who do I know? And that at some point in time, it dawned on me. I don't know when it was, but the name, the Battle Buddy podcast, I said, what speaks to people is letting them know that somebody else has walked in their path, that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And and of course, being Air Force, everything was wingman, but I was security forces, so we had to do everything different. So we had battle buddies, the bigger Air Force, had wingmen. And so it just kind of stuck. I was like, it's a universal term that everybody in the veteran community will know and understand.
Yeah.
And so I was like, it just seems perfect. And, like even the logo, of course, it's on my hat and I'm all backwards here, but
Yeah.
turn my head the right way for, for the video. But my wife even created that. She created all of it on Canva for me and everything. And it just
Oh,
fits like two people, draped in a flag walking together. And I was like, it's weird how things just kind of fall right in your lap. And
that
then the first
yeah.
interview I did was with a guy named Jeff Sykes. I knew him through the honor flight. that I've been involved in, and I could tell you honestly, the probably 5 minutes into it, I knew it was exactly what I needed to be doing. When he started sharing about his issues and TBI, PTSD, his suicide attempts, and how a service dog saved him, I knew
Oh,
immediately. I was like, yeah, yeah. There's some impact that can be made by people sharing their stories. And so I've
that
just been
is
energized after that. Like, it's weird. My mind is flipped. I'm like, who do I need to talk to? Who's got a story? Like, who can I have
right.
on next? Right. Because I just see the power in it, no matter what it is. If it's sometimes they're deep and sad, sometimes it's somebody talking about, nonprofits, or they're talking about franchising or something that's for some people going to be completely boring and not applicable at all to their life. For others, it could be super valuable.
Yep.
So, the topics definitely range, which is awesome too, because I get to learn along the way.
That's the best part is we run into so many different people, and every person has some kind of impact on you. You learn something from every person, and it recharges you again, right? You're like, yes, I want to keep going. So what do you foresee? What do you want to happen in the next 5 years with either real estate or your podcast or anything?
Oh, that's definitely a loaded question. Really, on the podcast, I just want to see growth. I just growth in myself, growth in the show. I'm always trying to add resources to the website. I just do the podcast as my way to give back to the veteran community.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really have goals other than just get good guests, talk about good stuff, and just kind of let stuff organically happen.
Yeah,
Get an idea, just run with it and see how it can help.
right.
Real estate, obviously, sell more homes. Be easy to do if more homes are on the market.
I know.
Inventory is a little bit of an issue in real estate right now, but just sell more homes. Grow my business there, especially kind of going off and starting my own thing. And
Yeah.
it's want to help more veterans definitely understand the power of their VA home loan benefit, and kind of pull back the curtain a little bit
Yeah.
on all that, because there's anytime you're dealing with the VA,
Hmm.
they don't make it easy to quite understand what you're getting into. So
No.
I just try to highlight the truth of what things are and let
Mm.
people make educated decisions.
No, that's so good. They need people like you, honest people that are really going to understand what their needs are. Because there's so many business out there who don't understand truly. So we have to it's almost like we need another veteran to help us so we can speak the same language. So yeah, I think what you're doing is obviously it's meant to be. So I think that's great. So are there any nonprofits that you work with in your area that you want to highlight?
Uh, Probably the one that I work with the most is the Greater Peoria Honor Flight, part of the National Honor Flight Network.
Hmm.
That has been very impactful for me
Hmm.
personally. I've met so many amazing people through there, but I didn't realize until the pandemic hit, because we haven't done flights in 2 years,
Hmm.
that I didn't realize how much I really looked forward to going somewhere, even if it was an hour or 5 hours, and just being around other vets or other people who just wanted to be there to help vets and just talk to people. Just going to a diner and finding some guy wearing a World War II hat, sitting down and having a conversation with them, be like, hey, have you been to DC? You know, well, no. Well, would you like to? I got some paperwork right here. We'll sign you up. We'll find somebody to go with you. Let's take you on a free trip. And it was one of those things I had so much joy in doing, and it sucks that the pandemic kind of ripped that away from us for a couple of years. But
Right.
we've got flights scheduled this year. We're it's going to look different, but we are jumping right back in, and that's a nonprofit that's very near and dear to my heart. So very, very happy anytime I get to help them with anything. So.
Yeah. No, I love that because there's so many nonprofits out there that not many people know about. So it's so heartwarming to hear ones that have specifically touched your life, and we need to broadcast that. We need to share that. There's so many that are just trying. They just want to help, but they need to be seen. So we need to just share all about them. So that's really great. Is there any what advice would you give to someone who is transitioning from the military?
Best advice I'd have for them would be take it slow.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be tough, and you don't know when it's going to hit you. It could be 6 months or a year later or 6 years later, but take it slow, soak it in. But most importantly, find a mentor. Find some way to be connected to the community, whether it's an actual mentor or just some organization to be in. That really helps. I sold furniture for a year. There was only 4 people in the store. And so I did 70 hours a week, standing on my feet, hanging out with the same guys. None of them were vets, but it was still that feeling of like, it's just the 4 of us. We're always together. We knew each other's family. Everybody's family would come in every now and then and bring food, and they'd sit down and, get to know other people's kids. And like, it was just that atmosphere that really helped me transition, which was really eye-opening later as I started hearing other people's stories of how rough they had it. Cause I was like, I quite literally had it made. I was in a great environment.
Yeah.
So yeah, just take it slow and find that person that can kind of guide you through it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we forget about that because we get out and we're lost, right? We don't know where to go. We don't know who to talk to. Have you personally considered being a mentor on Veterati?
Yes, I am on Veterati. Yep.
Okay. That's great. No, I'm sitting here listening like you have so much to add. You need to be on there to help others who are in the same space as you. So that's great.
I've talked to a couple people on there, more so in the real estate stuff, but
yeah,
it's awesome just to give back, 20-minute conversation and point somebody in the right direction.
I know. It's such a good feeling, right?
Whether or not they choose to go that direction, who knows? But once you're armed with the information, you can make better decisions. Because going back to the pausing thing, like you said, it's lost. What do you do in land navigation once you're lost? Stop and try to figure out where you're at.
Right.
Yeah, just revert back to the same stuff. Don't keep walking in a certain direction. Figure out where you're at first. So,
me and land nav were not friends, but yes, I just got memories.
Some people had that skill, some people didn't. I was not too bad at the pace count, but don't have me shooting azimuths. That was not my cup of tea. So we probably could be totally lost together. So luckily, I did have good partners sometimes.
I made it out, just not by the time that I was supposed to. But
that's okay. Well, you made it out, so
it's okay. Oh gosh, thank you so much for being on here, Keith. Is there anything else you would like to share with those that are watching on YouTube or listening?
I guess the only thing I'll share is knowing some of your audience is veteran. If you're struggling, call the suicide hotline number or pick up the phone and call a battle buddy.
Yeah.
And if I guess for all the veterans that are listening, be the battle buddy. Yeah. Pick up the phone and call some people, check in every now and then. You don't have to do it every day, but maybe pick your 4 or 5 battle buddies and reach out to them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I need to do a better job of that myself too. So challenge accepted.
Exactly. Thank you so much for everybody that's watching. You see the link at the bottom. Go to his Facebook page at the Battle Buddy Podcast. For those that are listening, go to Facebook, Battle Buddy Podcast. If you forget all of that, just go to the show notes and you'll find it there. Thank you so much, Keith, for being on here. Thank you for what you do for veterans. Thank you for what you do in the real estate side because people need you out there. So
thanks for having me.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.